Today we're going to round out our trio of expressions that talk about giving and receiving. This trio consists of te yaru, which we covered back in episode 11 as the more polite te ageru as per Dazai's usage, te kureru, which we covered in episode 13, and now, rounding out the group, te morau. And just so you're aware, in Japanese you might hear these expressions labeled as either
授受表現、受給表現。
Okay, so first things first. As a trio, let's address what's common among these expressions. The one thing each expression shares is this idea of the doer of action doing something or expending some physical or mental effort for some other. It could be some other person or some other thing, but for the sake of simplicity, let's just call this person or thing simply other. In big capital letters, other. The action undertaken by the doer can of course be advantageous or disadvantageous to this other. But most times though, it'll be a welcome action. And for this reason, we'll assume in the language throughout this lesson that the intended desire of any action by the doer is in fact aimed at being benevolent, that the doer means to lend benefit to this other. It'll just keep things simpler as we go through our explanations. Okay, so what we want to do for you in this lesson is help you decide with relative ease which of these three expressions to use when. In English, of course, the concept of giving and receiving is pretty darn straightforward, but in Japanese, as we all know, things are hardly as cut and dry, right? But it doesn't have to be that darn tricky, really, so let's make things a little simpler. If we have an understanding of from whom the action originates and to whom the action is delivered, from whose perspective the speaker is speaking, the doer or the other, and who or what the subject of the sentence is, we'll basically have the knowledge we'll need in order to use the expression most appropriate for the situational context of any sentence. So, ready to clear away the fog? First, let's do a quick recap of the first two in our giving-receiving trio before moving on to te morau. This way, you can operate with some clear boundaries. It'll help you chunk things together a bit. Speaking of chunks, let's put these three expressions into chunks and call our first team te yaru. In order of politeness, we have
手ある、手あげる、手差し上げる。
Now, two sentences so we can see these expressions in the wild. And let's add some Wizard of Oz Technicolor. Yellow for our subject and pink for our other.
私は祖父に iPhone の使い方を教えてあげた。母は村田さんを車で家まで送ってあげた。
In both sentences, it's plain to see the doer is doing these things for this other we keep talking about, right? For the grandfather in the first sentence and for Murata in the second. Now, what we might not tend to think about is that with Japanese, in sentences like these where this other is receiving some sort of benefit, then the actions we're referring to are in essence given to this other. This tiny bit of over-analysis will be kind of helpful when thinking about this giving-receiving trio, so keep it top of mind. In these expressions, we're giving an action, the action is given. Alright, so let's talk pictures. This little arrow we're using here, and we'll use this same visual formula, by the way, for each of these. This little arrow represents the execution of the action by the doer in the direction of the other, the receiver of the benefit or inconvenience that stems from the execution of that action. So that's our movement, from the doer to our other. Now, let's dive into the details. We talked about three things we need to know to decide which expression to use, right? One, in fact, was that idea of movement. which directions things are going. Our visual here has all the info you need. So, in a te yaru, te ageru, or te sashiageru sentence, all the points we need to address, the doer, the speaker's stance or perspective, and the subject, all fall on the left side of our visual. Okay, so left side, what am I really saying here? Well, the doer is obviously doing the action, right? The speaker is allied with that doer, or taking their perspective, and the doer is the subject of the sentence. Next up, we have our second chunk, team te kureru. Again, in order of politeness, we have